hear us. That's what I always say. Who cares? Very few people ever are here while we're doing it. And I'll check Facebook periodically to see if anybody's making comments or saying hello to you. But it's very rare that that happens, Roderick. All righty. We are live. I did not get Zuckerberg. It said we're live, and I checked, and we were really on Facebook. Can you believe it?
Yeah, technology working for us finally.
Yes. Facebook people. Hi, it's me again, Linda Marcus Smith. This is interview number 631. Today's guest is the amazing person sitting over in the other square over there. I didn't call him a square. He's in a square. He thinks inside of a box while he's thinking outside of a box. That's what we do on Zoom. Yeah, it's Roderick McDaniel today, you guys. Oh my gosh, wait until you hear all his accomplishments before I get into his intro and his credits. I have to start the show by saying this is Comic Spot. It was started so you people at home can get to know who comedians are off stage and see if you want to support their careers. So when you get done hearing the life and the legacy he's trying to live out, then you can decide that you might want to go see his show, get a hold of him and see if he can come to your city, get a hold of a comedy club and say, hey, I heard this amazing guy. You might want to check him out and book him. That kind of stuff. That really helps comics. You have no idea how hard it is to do the comedy grind. Am I right, Roderick?
You're preaching the facts right now. I'm just letting you go.
Tell it like it is. So I'm just keeping it 100. So Roderick Daniel sent me his intro and his bio. And like I said, I'll read that in just 1 second. First, I got to tell you, I have 2 sponsors. Yeah, I hate to brag, but I've got 2 sponsors. One of them is the Veterans of Comedy, started by William Clifton and Eric Knowles, like Beyonce. Eric and William Clifton started the Veterans of Comedy. Their motto is to leave no laugh behind. And they go around the country, sometimes the world, bringing laughter in comedy shows. So anytime you want to hire somebody who used to serve our country, who's now serving up jokes, you know where to go. That's veteransofcomedy.com. You go in there and scroll through all the comics and get down to me and say, I want to hire her. Hey, I'm the reason you heard about it. And give me some love, you guys.
Exactly.
Hey, we're all a little narcissistic at this point. We made it through a pandemic. We think everybody owes us something. And then the other sponsor I have is Living Water. I have no idea who they are and what they are doing in the world, but they gave me a bunch of water to give out. So why don't you go check out who they are and quit trying to make me do it? Living Water, you guys, they're awesome. I just don't know yet. I haven't done my homework, okay? I'm admitting it. And now, today, you get the privilege of hearing somebody else talk besides me. So let me read you the intro and the credits for our guest today. And like I said, he's sitting in the other square over there. And his name is Roderick McDaniel. I'm so happy he's here. He doesn't get to talk yet. Here's his bio intro. Roderick McDaniel is comedy's. Let me start again. Roderick McDaniel's comedy bridges the differences that separate us and show us that we are all the same. Can you see I have a brain injury? It shows up at times like this. Screwed up individuals in need of a good time. Roderick, aka Coach Silky, touches on being a father, veteran, daily living, and what we like to fondly call nerd stuff. He already started talking about nerd stuff the first minute I started talking to him. I'm like, you're losing me. I'm kidding. I can provide credits, he says. So he gave me his credits. Here's his credits. My new album. I don't even have an album. I once had an album in the 50s of Red Fox, but I don't know that that counts. My new album, Mind Your Business, released in April 2022 and is available on all streaming platforms. My first album, Live in the 806, is available also on all streaming platforms. His recent festival appearances include San Diego Comedy Festival, Zoom Edition 2020 semi-finalist, Las Vegas 420 Comedy Festival, headliner and feature. Opened for April Macy, Netflix, Tiffany Haddish, They Ready, in April this year, Jeremy Piven, Entourage, Joe Machi, The Last Comic Standing Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Geez Louise, these credits are like off the chart. Video funniest person in Austin 2016, and it's on YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel. Check it all out, you guys. So enough with me trying to read with a brain injury. Let's give it up for our guest today. It better be the only, because I'm saying it is, the one, the only Roderick McDaniel. Woo!
Hey, how's everybody doing? All right.
Hey, Roderick, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm enjoying this. This is kind of a big thing for me. I'm honored to be here. So.
I'm so glad you're here. I found out about you through Shannon Mugridge, who just recently, both him and I were supposed to be on the military show over at LA Comedy Club, and neither one of us could make it. So this is kind of an extension of getting to know Shannon and his wife, Amy, getting to know you.
Yeah, that's my family right there. I love those two. So
can't
go wrong. Yeah,
What's
Amy's a powerhouse. If you meet Amy in person, you never forget Amy, ever.
Oh, that's so cool. You know what I like about her is that she's so capable of being in front and getting all the attention, but she lets her husband do it.
Oh, yeah. No, and they have an 11-year-old that's going to surpass both of them.
No way.
I'm saying it right now. She's going to be the one that's going to be on TV.
No way.
There's 11 years. Man, that kid is sharp.
Wow.
At 11, her comedy timing is just killer. She says things when I'm visiting, and Uncle Rod just has to sit back and go, "Ooh, that's a good one." And I don't say anything. I just sit there and just kind of hype her up like, "That was a good one. You need to write. You need to start writing." Okay. So.
Wow, that's so cool. How old did you say she is? 11?
She's 11.
My gosh.
Yeah. She's going to be something else. I tell Shannon that all the time. I'm like, that's the one we got to watch that's going to follow in the footsteps. She's going into comedy. She's going to be an entertainer.
Oh my gosh. So Roderick, what city are you living in? Where are you at right now? I see your bed and a bookcase.
Yes, I'm in my house here in Round Rock, which is about 20 miles north of Austin. I rarely get to be at this house. Last year, I did not see this house a lot. So I am so happy to be here. Like, this is my fortress of solitude. As I know everybody's looking behind me like, are those anime figures? Yes, they are. It's anime, video games, and manga. That's all that's behind me. So when I come home, I spend all my time in this room hiding from the world and recharging my battery.
Wow. Okay, so I'm not a nerd, and when you use a term and I don't know what that word is, can I ask you to?
You sure? Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
What's anime mean? I've
Anime.
heard.
It's basically Japanese animation, but in Japan, all animation is called anime. Okay, so they call King of the Hill American anime. That's what they would call it. But over here in the US, when we say anime, we're mostly referring to Japanese animation and production. So that could be any of the Makoto Shinkai films or, Miyazaki. I know all those films. So when we say that here, there's this subculture in America where people go to these giant anime conventions and they celebrate the voice actors and all this anime. And I travel to those and I host them sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have a team that we host and we do panels at them.
Like what kind of panel? What would a panel be about?
The panels basically for me are stand-up comedy with a PowerPoint playing behind me. So we've done the best of the worst Netflix edition. We'll review the worst rom-coms and relationships in anime. I've done two that were specific for certain conventions where we did one called Pretty Sure It Was a Black Guy for Black History Month, where we went over the greatest Black characters in anime. And then we did one that was like, these are the worst fathers in anime for Father's Day. It was going to be in June. It was going to fall on Father's Day weekend. And we thought that'd be fun to lampoon some of the worst fathers in anime. So
Oh
we
my goodness.
we have fun with it, but it's like we get these rooms full of people that come to in Texas, especially in Central Texas. I have a reputation that I'm going to lampoon something. So people show up to cons when they see my name on there just to see what I'm going to make fun of.
Oh,
And it's
that is so cool. You've got your own niche.
oh yeah, kind of carved out my own lane in the anime world, and it was fun. I was already going to it, and I was there with my friends, and we were a press team for years. We would go in and interview people for a YouTube channel, and then one day it got out that I was a comedian, and somebody was like, "Well, why don't you do comedy here?" And I was like, "Oh, I could, but I don't really merge the two." And it just kind of naturally happened. I was doing the panels. The panels were already stand-up comedy-ish. Then they wanted a stand-up comedy show. So this past New Year's Eve, I got to produce my first comedy show with some of my close friends for IkiCon, which is one of the largest, anime conventions in Austin. We produced the first show, brought the comics out. We packed the room out. I think we got to 380 people packed into a room just to watch a comedy special at an anime convention. So it was nice.
Oh, great.
It was nice. It was a really great feeling just to be able to do it. We shot some of the footage as a documentary, so it's kind of fun. It was my first time producing something at that level. I don't like really being the producer. I did it, but I don't like it. But then it opened up more doors for me to produce at other anime festivals. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is what I do now. I just put
What's
other
the
comics in front.
What's the worst part about producing in your mind?
Oh my gosh. It is, I don't think people realize what goes into producing a show. And I didn't, I've worked with so many producers, but the word of mouth, the advertising, the juggling the guests, the juggling the artists, you have already as when I'm showing up there as a host, I'm dealing with my contract and all the things that have to go with my appearances. But then in addition to that, I have this show that's taking place simultaneously, and I have to worry about the people getting to that while I might be over here doing something for the con, like, oh, I have to be the host for this cosplay contest while I'm over here worried about these guys showing up and getting their passes. It is a lot of struggle. I give hats off to producers. They put
Wow.
in a lot of work behind the scenes that most comics don't realize, and they show up late and just, hey, can I drop in and get time? No, I put a
Yeah,
lot of work into building this into a schedule. So don't do that to producers. It's terrible.
absolutely. That's a very fair point. I think that comedians should produce one show in their life, and they would be a lot nicer to producers. They should book a show, they should host a show, like they would be different people if they had to walk a mile in other people's shoes.
You produce one show, it will change you and how you act with other producers, how you approach them. Also, it did open some weird doors because once people knew I produced a show, it was almost like welcome to this brotherhood because now you understand what we've been going through. And so it did open some doors for me to do other work. And then there are other people who have approached me about, hey, I would like to play one of those. This is something different and I've never played that. And I was like, yeah, it's definitely it's a strange world, but producing, hosting, I love. Hosting's easy for me. I know the cues. I know how to keep the audience hot. If the audience is hot, I know I don't need to do time in it. If a comic kind of bombs, I might do some time, get the audience back, keep their attention focused. Hosting, cakewalk for me. Producing, not a cakewalk. felt refreshing when it was over and it was done. And I felt like, wow, I really achieved something. I'm proud of this moment. No, I don't. It's definitely a different walk. And I think you're right. Everybody should try it because it's going to change how they interact in this business.
Yeah. Have you noticed that when people approach you, that women approach you differently than men?
Yes, but I've been blessed. I'll say this right now. In the Austin scene, I have a reputation. I didn't realize it until some of my female colleagues told me. I have a reputation of being kind of a dad amongst female comedians in our town because I don't. I have 5 daughters and 2 sons, and so the
Wow.
way I deal with female comics is the way I want people to deal with my daughters. So there's a lot of like, hey, respect. You're my colleague, not trying to sleep with you. I don't want to be seen alone with you in this place when we meet because I don't want there to be anything where you could misconstrue my intentions. So I'm very kind of specific in how I deal with people. And it's very intentional in my mind because I'm trying to create a system of like when you're around me, I want everyone to feel comfortable and loved and wanted when they're around me. Kind of that's the legacy, I guess, in my back of my mind that I'm trying to build. So female comics and I have a lot better relationships with the female comics here. You know, we're much more open, can be much more free about what's going on. I also see their hassles. I also see I've heard some of the seedier side of this business when they're dealing with people, that stuff that as a male comic, 80% of male comics have no idea what females are going through. I don't think they know what's happening behind the scenes a lot of time for me, female comics.
This is not really the year of the white, older, half Jewish lady either.
No, they always are going to be there. I don't care what anybody says. We need white, older Jewish ladies in comedy. They eventually take over the nightclubs that we work in. I need those ladies in my life.
And the straight, I'm straight. So like I'm an anomaly and nobody can relate to what?
Yeah. No, it's wild. It is crazy, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like comedy is definitely going through this reckoning, just like society, and I'm noticing that more and more. The guy who I was, I was born in '71, so I'm 51 right now, and the guy who I was is not the guy who I am today, and even with myself, with my kids, and watching them grow up, and now having grandkids, I'm constantly aware that perception is always changing in society and how we approach people and how we approach things, and things that would have been funny 25 years ago. We're not doing that. No, not touching that.
I was talking to a young girl comedian 2 days ago, and I was basically telling her that when I got married, I got pregnant without him having consent. And in those days, like in the early 70s, that wasn't seen as a crime amongst women.
No.
And like now, you say that on stage, the audience is going to turn on you.
No, they become kind of like this weird, horrified concern about what?
But you can have an abortion. And in my day, if you got pregnant out of wedlock, let alone an abortion,
Oh my God. Yeah. But you know what? In the South, it's still kind of weird. The South is still kind of weird about that. They're like, it's no matter how much things change, the South is still the South. So I don't know why they're like that. The South is just kind of one of those things where it's like, we're still going to be weird on this topic. I don't care.
It's kind of weird too, because like the South is kind of known for the incest, and yet no way to get out of a pregnancy, unwanted child from your uncle.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like the basis of so many horror movies. You think about when you watch certain horror movies, there's always this incestuous child that was born out of it. Like, isn't that the whole plot of Nightmare on Elm Street? You're like, what? Okay, hold on. Oh yeah. Watch that film. You will support abortion. I don't care what anybody says. That's such a weird thing too. The South is so weird on those topics.
They are. So there's a whole lot I want to ask you. I've got so many questions for you that are coming to my mind right now. I do this all in the moment. You can't plan it. It looks, with my brain injury, it's going to look mechanical. I have to do it in the moment.
Perfect.
So because of my brain, I have to go and do it chronologically, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Otherwise, I jump around and I look like it. So you are adorable at 51. And I want, you are, I'm 71, and I think you're so amazing as a person. You're so relatable and nice and, likable as a human. I'm not even talking about your comedy. So I'm trying to picture in my mind what little Roderick was like growing up in your house, at school. Can you paint an early picture of who you were?
That is definitely why I'm doing comedy. I'll say this. My dad he was a provost investigator for the U.S. Army during Vietnam. So he got out, he got to work for the federal government, Social Security Administration. So we moved a lot as kid. As a kid, I moved a lot. And so I would be in a school and I would never know how long I was going to be in that school. So I was like, I might be here the rest of my life. I might only be here for 3 years. And so somewhere, I don't know, second or third grade, I got this weird mentality that I have to make friends real quick and be like entertain everybody. Like I would get in, make jokes. I was I was book smart, so I did well in school. So, I help people figure out the lessons and do all this. I was just that guy. And then like that, I'd disappear and you never see me again. I'm in a new school. So by fourth grade, though, we'd moved to a place called Monroe, Louisiana. And I was going to Jack Hayes Elementary School. We ended up living in Monroe until I graduated high school. It was the longest I'd ever lived anywhere. And that's where we got cable TV. We got HBO. And I saw Rodney Dangerfield's special on HBO as a child. And I don't even know if I was supposed to be watching it, but I watched it. And I remember going to my dad and telling him, I'm going to have a special on HBO one day. And he was like, what? I said, I'm going to do that, what he does. I'm going to tell jokes. And my dad just kind of went, really? And I was like, yeah. And he remembered that for years. He would always talk to me about it after I started my career. In fourth grade, you told me you were going to be a stand-up comedian, and you really did do it. So it was something about stand-up comedy at that point to me that was just like, there was this power, especially for Black people, when they could talk about horrifying experiences, but get to humanize it and humanize themselves and their people through humor and these horrifying experiences. And I just thought that's amazing. I want to do that. I want to be able to talk about things and make people laugh and control the narrative of the room. And it was just like I kind of just always worked toward it. I was just this little weird chunky kid all through school that had jokes, and my mind was always, when I'd hear something, the joke was coming out before I thought maybe I shouldn't have said that out loud, but the joke's here you go, enjoy that one. So that was me as a kid.
Awesome. Have you been on Facebook? Are you seeing what Shannon's writing on the post?
Oh my God, yeah, I see where he's man, Shannon is a hot troublemaker. I love him, Joe. I see where he's telling me to tell the story about the girl asking you to sign her boobs. No, Shannon, I'm scared of that woman still to this day. Yeah, you're a hot mess, man.
So growing up, you were the child that had a lot of funny things to say. Did you get in trouble for the things you said? Or did teachers encourage you to write and get and perform, like get into drama or acting or drama?
Nobody told me to go into acting or drama. Maybe one or two told me that I should, but never really pointed me in a direction to do it. I think a lot of times my teachers I balanced it out. I was going to say something funny, but I was also going to be like an A-B student. So they were kind of like, okay. I did get in trouble early on because we'd be doing stuff in the class and I'd finish all the homework. Like I would finish it right there in class as they were talking through the lessons. And they'd be like, well, you're supposed to be paying attention when I'm going through it. Well, I read this chapter last night because I was bored and I've already done the homework. Here are the questions. So can I turn in the homework now? No, you got to save it and turn it in tomorrow. All right, cool. So now I'm off in la la land while they're talking because I've already done everything. I'm bored at that point. And that was pretty much where I got in trouble. They brought my parents in like, hey, they thought about jumping me a couple of grades because I wasn't being challenged. And I was like, I don't want to jump grades. These are all my friends. I'm a day ahead of the teacher. It's not my fault. So I did have to learn to kind of keep quiet a little bit more, to not always have jokes for everything. Not every teacher appreciated my sense of humor. So I did learn that. I had to learn that quickly. But for the most part, I was a good kid, kept good grades. I didn't become trouble until high school.
And what happened in high school? What kind of trouble did you get into?
My parents cut a deal with me. As long as I had a 3.0 average, I wasn't stopped from going out with my friends. But in Louisiana back then, the drinking age was 18 and I was 16. And we knew a bunch of guys that had failed. So we always had an 18-year-old around us. So I was like, I guess I'm going to discover beer and party with my friends on the weekend. But as long as I have B's on my report card, nobody's going to question my behavior. So I was just like, I learned how to go to parties and be an entertainer at parties, in keg parties. I was telling jokes at keg parties and performing at like bonfires with my friends. Like we get there, and as soon as I show up, there'd be friends that be, oh, it's about to start now, because they'd see me get out and they knew this fool's about to do a whole night of jokes for us. He's going to joke about everything that's going down tonight. And it was just this thing that I was known for. I'm going to come in, I'm going to tell jokes, I'm going to have a good time, then I'm going to go home.
Wow, that is so cool.
As long as I kept good grades.
Yeah. So after high school, what happened to you?
High school, it was my junior year of high school. I started losing friends. That's what got me. They started dying in like car wrecks because they were taking on some really dangerous habits and stuff. And so some were drugs, suicide, alcohol related incidents. And my junior year, I was like, I don't want to live and die in this town. I got to get out of here. So I went to a Navy recruiter. And in my head, I figured if I go to San Diego, I can work on being a skateboarder on the weekends and work toward owning my own skateboard shop, which in my head at 17, I thought that's what I'm going to do. And I don't know what made me think I could do that, but that was my plan. And so I got into the Navy, got my parents to sign it. And that was a fight because neither one of them wanted me to go to the military. My dad had been a veteran, had seen lots of combat action. And I'm pretty sure he had PTSD from Vietnam, but we didn't have that word. We weren't using it for that. So he didn't want me to take on that. He had some concerns and fears. My mom did not want to have to deal with the idea that she might lose a son in a conflict in some country. So I told my dad, the way I got him to sign the paperwork was, I will go to college if you want me to. But if you have $30,000 to throw away right now, can you just give it to me and let me burn it the way I want to use it? Because I'm going to throw your money away if you force me to go to college right now. I don't want to go. I don't want to study. I'm done. I've done the book thing. I'm ready to take a break from it. And my dad said, it takes a real man to look me in my eyes and tell me he's going to waste my money. Wow. And I will sign your paperwork for you. So he signed it. My mom's mad at both of us. She is so upset that he signed it. But I got into the military, and it was probably the best thing to happen because I got to see the world. I got to experience other people's cultures. I did get to understand people from different states. Like in the United States, every state has its own weird kind of subculture. And I was meeting people from these different subcultures in my own country, and I didn't even understand some of these subcultures. And so it just kind of opened up my ideology about people in the world and my place in it. And then the whole time I'm still kind of that jokester guy, but I'm starting to understand there's a whole bigger world that you could be making laugh, because of all these different people you're meeting. So it was kind of one of the things that I figured it helped cement my personality and how I am now in comedy. Was that experience going into that?
So when you were in the military, did you do comedy for your group of people?
No, it was that slight thing, like where I'm hanging out with my friends, they all know jokes that I would tell or play on them. Uh, I was always doing something to drive them crazy and keep them laughing, breaking up the monotony. And I think I realized it when I was on the Tripoli and we hit the mine during Desert Storm, and we'd hit a 300-pound explosive. And we were at 4:30 in the morning. It's pitch black. The oil wells were on fire. We're in the Gulf. There's no night. You can't see the stars, no moon. So we're out there dead in the water. It's pitch black. And I remember being up in the Combat Information Center, and I guess I was staring off into the distance. And my buddy was next to me, and he said, "What are you thinking about?" And I said, man, I'm just thinking about my entire life. And I'm thinking about how many people I wish I would have told that I loved them. How many people I wish I would have told could kiss my ass. I'm thinking about all the chances I didn't take and all the opportunities I missed out on. And, we don't even know what's going to happen in the next hour. We're just here. And so I'm just kind of reviewing life and thinking. He said, "What thing do you regret the most?" And I said, "I regret not telling more people to kiss my ass the most." And I said that out loud to him. And our chief heard it and started laughing. And we were in the most serious situation we could be in. And he said, "McDaniel, you still got jokes right now?" And I was like, "Yeah." He went, you got to get into comedy, son. You can't be this way all day. You got to get into comedy." And I just started laughing when he said that. And I was like, if this dude only knew that's what I wanted to do in fourth grade. And I kind of given up on the dream. But when he said it, I started thinking, yeah, I guess if I could laugh at this moment where we might die, I pretty much might need to do something with this one day. I still didn't pursue it for probably another 10, 15 years. Even after that day, I still was like, yeah, I'll do it one day. One day.
You know how old I was when I started?
How?
63.
Really? See, that's cool though, because I just got into my 30s when I went to the first open mic. I just went down there. I lost a bet to my brother. I came home for Christmas and I did a bit about our family having black rednecks in it because my dad grew up in East Texas. And I would do this. It was a joke I would tell the family, but I'd never told the whole thing as a set before. And so I just went through this story of us going there one summer and doing black redneck stuff, like learning to ride horses and farming and all that stuff. And just some of their mentality on subjects and matter. And I did it, and my dad was laughing so hard he had tears in his eyes, and he was holding his ribs, and he begged me. He said, "Hey, you got to stop. Let me catch my breath. Let me just catch my breath." And he's holding his ribs. He's in pain. And I said, okay, I'm gonna stop right there. And the whole family was laughing, but my dad was doubled over in laughter and pain. And my brother was like, "Hey, help me get something out of my car." So we walked outside to his car. He said, "When we get back to Amarillo, you're going to that Amarillo Comedy Club and you're going to do the open mic there. You're going up." And I went, "What?" And he said, "If you could make that old guy laugh like that, you got to go to a comedy club. We're tired of this. You're not using this. You're going." I said, "What?" And he said, "I'll give you $25 if you suck and you bomb in front of the whole crowd. 25, we'll never mention it to anybody. You tried it." And I went, "Okay, what if I'm good?" He went, "You're real good and you do get HBO special, buy me a Mercedes Benz and we never mention why you bought that for me." So the rest was history. I went when we got back home to that open mic, signed up, went up and did the time, and the club owners loved the joke. They loved the black rednecks bit. And they just that was when the Moran brothers ran it. Kelly, Kevin, and Kenny were all working in there, and they just took me under their wings and started my whole career. 20 years later, I'm still here slinging jokes. So,
Oh my gosh. Well, let's talk about some of your credits one by one.
okay.
Name off your credit and tell people how that happened and how it felt and how amazing it was? Or
Man, there. This is weird because when I look at the credits, I'm the worst about trying to figure out what I should talk about or brag about, because I always look at them and go, I was just thankful to get the job. That's really what it was. The most recent one was the Jeremy Piven. Everybody knew Jeremy from Entourage, and I knew he was coming to town, and I had no idea. I was like, wow, I didn't even know he was really doing stand up. I knew about his podcast, I knew about his acting, but when they told me, yeah, he's coming here to do stand up at the Creek in the Cave here in Austin, and I was like, oh, that's going to be an amazing show. I got a call from Rebecca Trent asking me, hey, can you come do shows on Friday night? And I was like, sure. And what do you need from me? And she was gonna you're just gonna, that's a pass the mic, so each comic's gonna introduce the next one. And I went, oh, okay, great, that'll work. I get there, and then that's when it hits me. She sends me the flyer like 2 days before the show, and I realized, oh my God, I'm on the Jeremy Piven show. Where am I at on this show? Where do I fall in this lineup? So when I got to the club that night and I'm meeting everybody, and like Jamie Kilstein was there, Colton Dowling, I'm looking at all these guys I love watching do comedy, and I'm like, am I introducing them? Am I the first? No, you're going to bring Jeremy out. You're going to be the last guy before Jeremy comes out. So you got to go meet Jeremy, introduce yourself to him, and find out how he wants to be introduced. So I went back there and I met him, and he immediately starts cracking jokes with me like we've known each other for years. And I was like, he's an amazing personality, super sweet and kind. We're joking, we're cutting up in the back the whole time, and then we go out and do the show. And it was it really worked out well for me, because he was there Friday and Saturday night. Well, Saturday night I was somewhere else, and he asked the club owner, where's that guy? And I was honored that he'd asked about me. I was like, wow, I must have made some kind of impact. And they said, yeah, he really did like you. Said, we kind of short-sighted ourselves. We should have brought you back first the second night too. So I was like, no, that's cool. It's the business. I was just so honored to be on Friday. So they called me and they were like, hey, is it cool if we give them your personal contact info? And I went, sure, here you go. So I sent him my contact info. But it was just like one of those things where each time the universe and God had blessed me to just be able to walk into some situations where somebody would be like, we think you'd be a great match with this comedian. Same thing happened with April Macy. That's back when the Romo Room was a club here in Austin in the Domain shopping area. And they were, same thing, they kind of booked me for a show. And I was like, yeah, I can totally, do whatever you need. They were like, yeah, I think it was 2 shows. So you're going to do the 7 o'clock and the 10 o'clock. And I was like, sure. I met April that way. And I followed her on Instagram. And so I'd watch her post about her mom. And her mom's always doing like yoga. She's always doing some cool stuff. And so we're in the green room, and I just asked, what's with your mom? I said, she always seems to be doing cool stuff on Instagram. Like I saw her doing a handstand the other day. So I asked her about it, and she lit up, and we talked about her mom in the green room. And I was like, the more she talked about her mom, I think I remember telling her, I said, look, you keep telling me any more about this lady, I'm going to be your stepdad. Your mom's amazing. Her mom is so cool. And so it was just kind of like watching, meeting people. Joe Machi, when I met him, I knew Joe from the Tonight Show. I'd seen him on all the talk shows and stuff like that. So when I got to the club, I'd noticed the audience looked like this is a very Fox News looking room. This crowd looks like everybody in here watches Fox News and knows who Tucker Carlson is personally. So I was like, and I'm the only Black person in this room. What's going on? And they were like, oh, well, Joe does the show on Fox News on Saturdays. And I said, what? And they said, yeah, it's the show he does on there. And he's really known for that. And they do comedy, but they talk about the headlines. And I was like, you guys are sure I'm supposed to be here? And they were like, yeah, you're going to be perfect. And so I was freaked out. I was like, it is too late to change my jokes. I'm just going to go out here and do my set and probably get booed. Okay. That was I just knew it was going to go horribly wrong. And we got out, and it turned out the crowd really loved me and was super supportive. And I sold a lot of merchandise that night. And Joe was awesome to hang with and talk to and get info from. But the thing I found out about my comedy that they liked is that I took political correctness and threw it out the window. And my comedy's based on telling everybody we're all messed up. That's our thing we have in common. No matter what your race or how you vote, we're all messed up. So it worked out. That was what the crowd wanted to hear. Somebody kind of mock political correctness. So,
oh, that's so cool that they were on board with it.
yeah, I was shocked. I was shocked, but it did work out. So,
do you know who Kevin Smith is?
I do.
He's watching.
What?
You got a following. Yeah, 2 people on here. This never happens. Nobody cares what I'm doing when I'm doing it. They just look at it later. They're like, I don't want to watch when she's there. I'll do it later.
Yeah, Kevin is a wild dude. So Kevin's probably listening to see if I'm going to say something crazy. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you.
So you've been on HBO. You were finalists in contests. Talk about your contests and your specials.
So what I did is I was San Diego. It was the San Diego Comedy Festival. And I, kind of quit my job in the video game industry and decided I was going to go to comedy full time. So in 2020, I applied to everything. Started a year, every festival. And I started applying kind of around 6 months before. So I'd say June, August of 2019. I'd been saving up money to have money to kind of fall back on if comedy failed. But I was like, I'm going to quit this job. I'm going to focus on comedy 24/7. And that's going to be my full-time job. And so I was like applying to everything. So in 2020, I had this idea. I'm going to just go to festivals, tour. And I'm going to just work clubs and bars. I'm going to do this whole thing. And by March of 2020, there was a tour. I had enough shows booked with festivals and shows. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go on tour. And then COVID showed up and changed my whole plan. And I was like, I didn't have a backup plan for this. I don't know what to do because there was no backup plan. And that was a really dark time in my life because that's when you're a vet and you got PTSD and depression, you kind of think, well, you can always off yourself if it doesn't work out. That's your backup plan, whether you admit it or not. And that was what my brain was thinking. One part of my brain was like, you can't afford to not work. If you got to off yourself, you got to off yourself, like very matter of factly about it. And then I was just like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, one of my buddies calls me and he says, you want to go do a USO show for us? And I was like, yeah, I should do that. That'd be cool to do something for some vets, get me out of me for a while. So I went to the USO show. It wasn't far from us. It was somewhere between here and Houston. I forget where that camp was, but these guys were getting ready to deploy, I think, going to Afghanistan. And we went, it was like 12 comics go out there. It was a bunch of comics. And we're going to do, I met like so many different guys from Killeen and Austin, and nobody knew who I was except the guy who booked me. And he knew I was a vet, and he said, this guy is a headliner, and he's going to close out one half of this show. So a lot of these other comics were like, well, I've never heard of this guy. Who is this guy? Why is he headlining? I don't know him. I've never seen him at open mics. And I was like, yeah, I don't go to open mics. That's why you never see me. And they were like, well, why don't you go? I went, I don't really get anything out of them. So that was kind of seen as me being cocky. And I was like, that's not the intent. I just don't, my comedy doesn't work well in 5 minutes, I don't feel. So
truthful.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to waste their time or mine. So I go do the show, and there's kind of like, I know people are kind of upset that I'm closing it out. They're looking at me like, well, who is this guy? I've never heard of it. So I had this weird chip on my shoulder kind of thing when I walked into it. And I end up doing 30 or 40 minutes, probably top 5 30, 40-minute setup done. And it was crowd work and just some of my classic jokes and some of the new material I've been working on. I just let it all out. Just this may be my last show, but I'm giving these guys everything. This is my swan song. And what happened was a bunch of those guys on that show were producers in Austin and Killeen. Those comics were also producers. So they were like, you want to come do my show? Want to come do my show? Want to come do my show? So I was like, yeah, sure, I would love to. So they started booking me to come headline shows. Well, it felt like in 2020, when everybody else was going inside or quitting comedy, I was having this coming out party in 2020 where Austin was starting to figure out there's this headliner that's been hiding in Round Rock that nobody knows about. And it was just like, hey, come, you got to come see this guy. And then it was like, I'd go do a show and somebody else would come see me and they'd be like, how long you been doing this? I mean, a lot of years, man. I just kind of keep to myself. And I was working the anime convention circuit that I'd made for myself. So it was, they were finally like opening me up to clubs and all, and more producers would be at other shows. And so it just kept building. And I really, the thing I can say about the Austin comedy scene is really love these guys. They're a group of amazing men and women that are in this scene. And, like family, we can get on each other's nerves and we can have some petty jealousies about stuff. And, but at the end of the day, they're still family. And I really, really enjoy working. There's very few people that I'm like, hey, I absolutely hate working with this person. I got pretty good working relationships with most everybody. So as long as you don't do anything that I just think you violated how you treat women. I have rules, hard rules that I'm like, I can't work with you. If you, the word I always say, if you have all those rapey tendencies, I won't work with you. Refuse to work with you. You cannot be somebody I think is kind of a little too loving of children or young or underage girls at 17, 16. I'm like, won't work with you. We're done. It's hard rules that I got to have in here. But for the most part, great working relationships. A lot of people in Austin are just trying to do the same thing, put on great shows and entertain crowds. So,
there's a topic I'd like you to touch on. You're touching on it, but we haven't labeled it. So I want to label it.
Okay.
Ethics. The ethics in comedy sometimes is non-existent, and
yes.
people cower to those who do the booking or those that are senior to you in comedy. And I think it's so wonderful that you stand up for principles and ethics.
Yeah, okay, and it's probably because I'm older. I believe in your legacy. If you're starting out tomorrow in comedy, or you've been in it for a couple of years, you start on day one leaving a legacy. Every comic needs to understand that you are building your legacy the first time you touch that microphone. So my legacy is going to be one that I want to leave, that people are going to know I tried to help as many people as I could, and I tried to do the right things. I always want to kind of land on the right side of history. So there are topics where I've seen one of my dearest friends in comedy. She started out and she was a great writer, and we knew each other from like burlesque and theater. She was one of my closest friends, and I just kept telling her, you should get in a stand-up. I think you have a voice. You should get in a stand-up. And she got into it, and she ran into a promoter, and I'm not going to name his name. He's not in the business anymore, thank God. But he basically told her if she would perform sexual favors, he'd give her time on the show. And she called me and told me, and I said, that's not how this business works. She said, what? I said, don't do that. So then I called up a buddy of mine that was a producer, and I vouched for her, and I said, book her on our big show. We had this big show we're about to do, and it was 4 guys. We were all Black comics. It was Romello Words, Lando Shepard, who's huge here in Austin, Dwight Williams, and myself, and we were called Dim Damn Fools. All right. And it was our 4-man team. We had a big showcase coming up, and I begged them to book her on that showcase. And I said, if she sucks, you can kick me out of the group and I won't do comedy anymore. Now I'll quit based on this. I believe in her this much. You got to book her. So my boy books her on the show, and she comes in and she devastates. She is amazing. And I at that point realized I didn't want her to go do comedy under those situations. And it kind of opened my eyes that there were promoters like that. And so secretly, once I found out that he did that, uh, anytime I would meet female comics and they would ask me about, should I go do this show? I'd say, no. I didn't know they were listening to me. I would just say, no. He said something to a friend of mine and I didn't like it. Well, why? And I tell them the story and they'd be like, he's never said that to me, but I'm not going to do the show. And I said, okay, cool. So I thought he had set up his idea of his legacy. And there are comics that do that. We know it's happening in every city, in every state. And there are guys that are like, well, if they're dumb enough to do it, whatever your reasoning, I don't agree with it. Blame it on me being a daughter's, having 5 daughters. I don't agree with that lifestyle. And it's still a legacy you're leaving behind. And I just said, I can either complain about that or I can do something about that. So I decided I'm going to be on the side to do something about that. And so it was, it kind of started hitting me. What kind of a legacy was I leaving? Because I started thinking about, after that happened, I looked at some of the promoters I worked with and I started looking at why don't we book more female comics? Why are all these shows so heavily white males? Why am I the only black guy on this show? Or, why are there only like 5 black guys that Austin knows as comedians? I started asking a lot of questions like that. And the more I would ask those questions and stuff, the universe led me to Shannon and Amy, because Shannon and Amy had never heard of me. And I got booked on a show from them, and they will never tell you, but they have a reputation in this business that I noticed that they book a lot of people of color and women. They were giving them a lot of comedy opportunities and giving them stage time when the rest of Austin was not really doing that. And Austin is super quick to tell you we're liberal. Lando Shepard calls them fake liberals. He's quick to call them a fake liberal town. But he was like quickly pointed that out to me, and I started noticing, I'm finding myself working with producers that are really big about giving females and people of color a chance to be on this stage and to do this business and to showcase their talents in front of diversified audiences and build their fan base. And I started working with them after one show. I think Sam Noorani was there. Sam Noorani was there, and she kind of bragged about me. And I was like, I love Sam. So Sam was another female comic I had a lot of love and respect for. I feel like she's one of my kids. So it was just kind of like it kept opening doors that the people I needed to be working around kept coming to me. And Shannon and we hit it off day one, first day we met. We were just like, oh, you're a Navy vet? I'm a Navy vet. Our comedy, very similar. Subject matter, very similar. Our outlook on life, very similar. And it was kind of weird. And then we went on tour. And when you go on tour with somebody, you're like, okay, we're about to find out how good our friendship is. We blended so well on tour. I was like, this is weird. It's like one of my best friends now. So I did not think we would get along as great as we do, but we would spend so much time listening to music, talking about life, talking about growing up, talking about our kids, the wives. It was just Shannon and I, or it's like you're watching 2 twins hang out. Because his mentality and mine is like definitely this kind of weird kind of connector. But I love doing shows with that guy. He's one of my favorite people in the universe. Amy, after a while, I went to Amy and I said, hey, you want to be my agent? I need you to represent me in contracts. Because I hate to say it, but in comedy, sometimes when a comedian comes to someone with an idea, a club, they don't want to hear it. But when his agent comes with that same idea, all of a sudden the contract can get signed and we can move forward. So I was like, if anybody's going to represent me, I wanted it to be Amy, because she felt like family. She understood what my vision was for comedy and what I was trying to accomplish. And she just, anytime somebody wants to act a fool with me, I just send them to Amy. And she's a tough Chicago girl. You met her. So she scares a lot of people into doing the right thing.
That is so cool. Good job, Amy. So let's talk a little bit about your military experience. I understand you went into the military and it changed your life, um, much like it helps you grow up real fast and you get to see a lot of the world. But when you were growing up, what is it that made you go in the military? What job did you do? What was your military experience like?
I was getting out of Monroe in high school. That was what made me go in. I'm gonna just say that. Just getting out of there was like, this is all I need to do to just get out of here. I'll take the military.
Yeah.
I was an operations specialist, and so that I stared at radars, tracked ships and aircraft, uh, doing the man overboard things. We would do all the maneuvers to figure out where they were in the water. If they ejected from a plane, all the levels of air they went through in the atmosphere. And they hit the water, temperature was this, they're going to be here with currents at this rate. We should be able to find them in this square. And I did that a couple of times. It's scary. I sucked at math in high school, but then I figured out I was doing calculus and geometry in the military. And I was like, maybe I don't suck at bad as I think I did. I'm probably smarter. I just probably didn't apply myself as hard as I thought I did because it didn't come to me naturally. So when I got in there and I was an operations specialist and I went through Desert Storm. And I was on there when we hit the mine. I was in the Philippines when Mount Pinatubo erupted. I was off the coast of India when the cyclone hit. We did relief missions in Rwanda, well, for all of Africa. So we did those. I kept ending up on the news. That I was on the news all the time. My ship was on the news. And
What was the name of your ship?
The USS Tripoli, LPH-10. It's decommissioned now. Thank God. That ship had a history of getting in trouble. All the way, it got its tail end shot off in Vietnam. So I was like, this ship had a history of like, I want to be on the news way too much. And so I was just glad to survive it. But it was one of those things where it kind of, just watching that really shaped my worldview on some things. I understood that conflicts aren't black and white a lot of times overseas. We just think, oh, they're the bad guys, we're the good guys. And you go, what made them the bad guys? And you start asking those kind of questions. That's where it gets a little troublesome because you start asking questions that the news and the government doesn't want you to ask about stuff. And you're like, well, seems like there's more to the story than just they're the bad guys. Who funded them the guns to be the bad guy? Oh, so we wanted to overthrow the government and then they turned on us. Okay.
Wow.
So, you start asking those kind of questions and you realize I'm not going to have a military career for long. This is not going to be for me. I got to get out of here. So
how long were you in?
Let's see. I went in 4th of July, 1989, and I got out in August of 95. August 5th of 95. Yeah. I took the early out when they were decommissioning the ship, and I had signed up again, and I think I had 2 years, maybe 3. And they said, you can take an early out. And I'm like, I'll take it. I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to press my luck any further than I've already pressed it. I'm getting out of here. So
you get out of the military, and then what did you do?
I had no idea what to do. I had 3 kids and had just found out a 4th was on the way, and I was out of the military. And now I'm not making military money because I was a E5 at that time, and I'd been in those combat zones getting tax-free money. So I was like, oh, I just lost $20,000 a year. What am I going to do in the medical and dental? What's going on? So my dad was like, hey, you should move to Amarillo, Texas. It's a great place to raise kids. Your mom and I just moved here. I'm taking over the Social Security office here. It'd be a great place to raise your family and get you out of California. And I did it, and it was great. I loved Amarillo. I consider it home. It's second place I lived there longer than anybody anywhere else in my whole life. So it had surpassed even Monroe for the number of years I lived there. And I was just like, this is home. I raised my kids here. My first grandchild was born there. It was just a really great experience for me. But when it came to an end, it was one of those things like, hey, I got to leave. I'm going away. and we ended up in Austin. And when I got here, I was kind of on the idea, like I thought about quitting comedy when I got here. I was just kind of like, it's a new city. Nobody knows me here. I could quit and walk quietly away from comedy right now if I wanted to. Nobody's gonna. It'll be no big deal. It's a perfect place to go die and reinvent myself. And I ended up being right back in comedy somehow. It's like, no, you don't get to leave us like this. So I did get a good break for a year.
You did what?
I did get a break for a year from comedy, but that was short-lived break. It was so short-lived. So
Tell me about the break you had.
What happened was my dad had got sick. He was fighting cancer. And so when I moved here, it was kind of I'm here to be here for my mom. So I got here today, like he was in the hospital. He had become unresponsive. So I came here April 2nd of 2014. Went to see him at the hospital, and then as soon as I got there, it felt like he started declining that night. So all the other brothers had already come and talked to him, kind of made peace. I had not. So when I got there and I was in the room and I was doing what I do, telling humorous stories and joking and enlightening the mood of the room. And I think my dad could hear it. But we had a talk privately that nobody knew about. And I told him before, hey, I know whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. You've given me all the tools I need to be okay. So I don't want you to worry about me. Don't hang around in pain because of me. Because he was in immense pain when I got there that day. And when he became unresponsive, he just tailed off into the night. So I got there that day. He passed away the night I got there. And so I was like at this point where I told my brother, yeah, I think I'm going to quit comedy. I'm done. And he said, why? I said, yeah, I don't know. Dad's not here. And it doesn't feel the same if he's not here to watch this. And so I'm going to take a break. And my brother went, take a couple of days off, but you're not quitting. We don't quit. This family's never quit. And I don't think Dad would want you to quit. So take a break, heal your heart, come back stronger. And that was it. He was done. He walked out of the room. He didn't even hear the rest of my conversation. And I was so mad at him. I was like, what? I can't quit. I'm a grown man. I'll quit if I want to. And I did not quit. I ended up taking a little bit of a break. And that's how I got into the video game industry. Had a buddy named Jacob Moran that was working at EA. And I called him to see if he wanted to have some beers that night because I was in Austin. And he told me to send him a resume. He turned my resume in. And they called me the next day to come in for an interview. And I took the interview and I ended up staying in Austin. I was like, I guess I live here now and I have a job here. And I got into EA and it really played to my talents to finesse. I ended up in their customer service. I did what they would call international chat. So I'd be on chats with people from like Egypt, Israel, the UK. As long as they can speak English, type in English, I would take their chats. And I learned to type and be funny. Like, hey, here's a funny message. Let's keep this interaction going. They liked it. And they said, you'd be better on phones. And then they put me on phone support. And that worked out. Then they were like, you're really personable. We want you to do account security. I went, okay. And that was really good. So I kept like all these different departments. I'd keep going to the top. And then they finally like, there's only one group left. You got to go to tech support. And I did not want to do tech support at all. I hated tech support. Hold on. So I hated the idea of tech support. And they were like, yeah, you're going there. And I went there and it still worked out. But it was always the ability to be funny on the phone and talk to people and to talk them off the ledge. Because a lot of times they would call in hot under the collar. They were upset. And so it was kind of like, if I could talk you off the ledge and calm you down, maybe I could go back to comedy and do this. That's where my talents for this came from. So it kind of went out to some shows, just kind of goofing off. Didn't even want to go up and do time. I just started going out to shows and they started, hey, would you like to talk to us about, doing time? No, not really. I'm just here to hang out. So it was kind of one of those things where I hung out, but I kept hanging out with people at shows where they would know, oh, this guy's a headliner. And so it was, or they saw me at an anime convention. Like, what are you doing here? do this. What are you doing here? So it was a weird career, but it all led up to 2020, basically, where well, in 2016 when I was doing Dim Damn Fools, and then 2020 when the pandemic hit, the USO show. It was all these weird connections I kept building from all these different groups. So it worked out.
What is okay, so then of all the things you've accomplished in your life, name your top 5.
7 kids. Those 7 kids are my top 7. That's it. Them. In fact, I'll put all 7 in number 1. They're all happy, healthy, and successful in raising their own families. And that's probably, I can look at all the comedy stuff and go, yeah, that's great. But one day comedy will end, but those will still be my 7 kids. So I have to say that's probably my most proudest accomplishment, is that I got them all to adulthood and with minimal therapy.
On your part.
Yeah, minimal therapy. So I would say that comedy wise, I think I'm probably most proud of being able to say that I have 2 albums out. It's weird thinking that I'm an international recording artist now, because CD Baby sent me my report and it was like, hey, here are the countries where you're streaming. And like seeing Italy and Australia and like Ireland. I have some listeners in Ireland, and just kind of see Spain, Portugal. I've seen these listeners from all around the world were listening to my album, and I'm going, wow, that's kind of wild that there are people who even know who I am in these different countries, and I've never performed there. So I'd probably say number 2 would be that.
You could travel and get booked to all those places too, huh?
I think about it all the time. Like, I really would love to tour. I'd love to go play Ireland and play all through like London. I'd love to play all through England. I would love to just tour through there, just because I actually have a following there. In Australia, if I could go play those 3. Italy shocked me. I didn't even know I had Italy until recently. But Italy has right behind Australia for listeners for me. And I couldn't understand. I was reading the numbers. I was trying to deep dive the report, and it seems Spotify opened up those doors for me. I'm really big in foreign countries, but Spotify made it to where people could discover me in these countries and listen to the album. And so it's kind of weird to know that my humor is kind of transcending some boundaries like that. But
Absolutely. That's amazing. Congratulations on all of that, all your accomplishments. Before you get to 71 like me and get ready to kick the bucket and die, what is it you got to accomplish?
I'm always looking at the list of what I want to do next. I'm currently working on the 3rd album, because I went out on the road with Shannon pretty heavy in 2021, and I wrote all this new material while we were on the road, and I'm tired that I have all this material. That's enough for another album, but not quite. It's only about 30 minutes, and I want to get to 45. And so I want to do a 3rd album. I would love to get to one of the streaming services. I don't care if it's Amazon or Netflix. I want to put a special on one of them. HBO would be perfect. That's where I said I wanted to go as a kid. So to me, that would be in game, is to say there was one comedy special of mine that you can watch on HBO or HBO Max. That would be in game win for me. But I think my biggest thing is that I'm worried about the legacy I'm leaving behind. Like, do I take care of people? Do I love people? Am I helping people? Am I using my position in comedy to help their careers? I want to make sure that I'm doing those things. That I think at this point, if I get to 71, then there's some people that can say, I'm where I am today because Roderick gave me a hand or believed in me. I did it. That's it. I've accomplished what I need to do. But I have concerns about legacy now. Probably because I am getting older. A legacy concern.
Yeah. I do these Zoom comedy shows. I put them on and I send them out to military and veteran places. So I'd like to hold on to your name and have you come on. And I'm trying to get sponsors regularly to pay on Zoom. Do you do comedy on Zoom ever?
I have. San Diego Comedy Festival in 2020 was a Zoom performance. So I made it to the semifinals doing Zoom, which was, I did not know I could do that. I was scared the entire time in Zoom, but it's nice. I actually do those. So anytime you have something like that for me, let me know. I'll totally come in.
Maybe I'll do a show with everybody that was on the military show plus you,
Oh, that'd be sweet.
like a reunion plus Roderick.
Yeah, I like bring my boy Shannon in. I can't be there without Shannon. I gotta have my boy with me. He and I have so much fun together.
All righty. So I have two I usually only do one military type show a month, and I'm doing two in June. So I'll do one in July, and I'll get a hold of you guys.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what would you like to say as your closing statement to the world, to people? This is going to go to my videos. I go to military and veteran places, and I tell them about these, these videos. And so I get a lot of veterans that come and look at and view the YouTubes. So anything you want to say to younger comedians, to bookers, to agents, to people in show business, to human beings, to the military and veterans, what do you have any closing? You can have 5 minutes to have a closing message. Or
Okay. Hold on. That's my key word. So even when I was at my darkest and I was having the dark thoughts and the depression, holding on one more day got me here. So hold on. That's my number one. Two, younger comedians, think about your legacy now, today, day one, because being late to shows, being unprofessional at shows, how you treat other comics, that's all part of your legacy. So start thinking about that day one. What do you want to be remembered for? Producers, man, take naps. You guys are doing too much. You guys take naps and get hugs, y'all. I stepped into your world and now I'm stuck in it, and it's scary. It is a scary world. So producers, comics, watch how you treat these people. Check on your producer friends. They need hugs and hot chocolate. They are hurting. And those would be my three things. Hold on. Think about your legacy. Start building your legacy on day one, and treat your producer friends kindly, because we're tired. This is a tough business. There you go.
It's so hard. You're absolutely right. Of all the things that you've accomplished that impressed me, hit my heart, of course, it's the USO event you did.
Oh, yes. I want to go back so badly. It's fun because I don't really talk about my career in comedy a lot, but I don't talk about my military career outside of those. And so it was kind of nice to be able to be in a situation where I was telling jokes, and then somewhere in the middle, I started telling these funny stories about being in the military to guys, and they understood it. But it's telling this story about the narrative of life after. A lot of times we're not thinking about the life after we get out. And so it was a weird thing where I kind of found out, wow, I kind of bridge this for these guys. And so a lot of those guys still follow me on Instagram. So some of those guys that were at that USO show, I'm watching them on Instagram where they are, but they've been following my comedy career still. So it's kind of neat. I started this, like some of my followers on there were people who saw the USO show and were in that audience. So I was like, oh, okay. Didn't know I was building a fan base like that, but it's cool. They keep in touch and they reach out to me, or when they're in town, they come catch shows. And I'm very open to people coming up and taking pictures with me after shows and posting it, because I want to be able to look back one day and go, oh my God, I remember them in that show. I know who that is. So yeah, just USO shows. Anybody that books USO shows, I don't care where it's at. If you watch this video, call me. I will. Yeah, I'm very easy to work with. Like, hotel room, feed me, and I'll drive there. Just get me on the show. Okay, that's all I need to do. Feed me, hotel room. I'm there. I got jokes. So
I would love, personally, that's when it's on the top of my bucket list is to do at least one USO show. I have to. I've got a whole closet full of Marilyn Monroe gowns, and people tell me all the time I look like Marilyn Monroe. And I don't, but I have this whole Marilyn Monroe thing I do.
Yeah, see, that's awesome. Yeah. I'm gonna have to send you some of the information because it was weird how my buddy Max had the connection. Max is he's a weird chameleon in the Austin scene. Everybody sees him everywhere and they watch him perform maybe a few times a year. But Max is behind the scenes booking more things and getting comics on the show. So Max is this weird character that nobody knows what he does in Austin. But I think Max secretly may be a CIA agent that just works in Austin. He just knows so many people and he does just the weirdest stuff. And it's like nobody knows where he lives. They don't know anything about Max. But Max is always at every show and he books, and he knew all these USO guys and he put me in contact with them. So I always give him a shout out. I love Max, but to this day, Max is the biggest mystery in Austin comedy to me. And I'm starting to figure out what you are. I think you're a CIA plant, but you're a good one. Okay. Helping all the vet comics out. I know what he's doing.
Exactly. This has been a delight. Anytime that I get to talk to a military veteran and a military veteran who does comedy, you're at the top. You're the cream that rises to the top in my book.
Oh, thank you so much. Now, this is a pleasure doing the show. I wish you nothing but the best. It seems like if I'm episode 631, you're doing something right. So, yeah, I appreciate you having
931.
930. Oh, my God. Yeah, you're doing something right.
You know who put me on the map? I was nobody. I was doing interviews. Nobody cared until I got to interview Sinbad.
Oh, such an underrated legend in our business. You know that?
I know it.
It's like so many people don't think about. Like I'm old enough to remember watching him do stand up, and I remember the early days of him on Comic View and Def Comedy, and he was doing stand up before that. I think he was on. Was it not America's Got Talent? What was that call-in show?
Star Search?
That was it. I remember him from that.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't think people realize, Sinbad was such a bigger character than his voice work he did on American Dad. Just like my kids know him as the voice of a character on American Dad, and I think they know him for those things, but they don't think about Sinbad. I grew up with Sinbad. I watched Sinbad perform. He's a legend in this business, but he's so underrated.
So underrated. And that's the way he likes it, That's his legacy, as you were saying.
I would love to be, I always tell everybody when they ask, how famous do you want to be? I always say Tony Hawk famous, because Tony Hawk is super famous and he's very wealthy and he's well off, but he could still walk into a Walmart at 2:00 in the afternoon and nobody's going to mob him. And he still goes to skate parks and skates with kids and they don't know who he is. And I was like, that's how famous I want to be. I want to still be able to go into a comedy club, do jokes or hang out at an open mic and nobody really recognizes me. But at the same time, I could go up and headline, just drop in. I want to be that kind of famous. And I was like, that's it. That's the level of success. I want Sinbad's success right there. Tony Hawk and Sinbad, they're perfect.
You know what I noticed when I was interviewing Sinbad is that there isn't a Sinbad off stage and a Sinbad on stage. He just is.
Yes. See, that is good. And I hope I'm like that. I think I'm still the same guy. I think my stage sometimes persona is a little bit more exaggerated than real Roderick, but it's all based out of real Roderick's anxiety. So I think that's if anything is what I've done is like real Roderick's anxieties inform a lot of what I say. So, but yeah, no.
Roderick McDaniel, you've been a delight. You touched my heart so many different ways. You have no idea. I went to get retested yesterday to make sure I didn't have COVID up at the VA hospital in North Las Vegas. And I got to tell you this, when I go up there, sure, I might need some pills or something like that. I've got a brain trauma and PTSD and stuff. I'm a psych patient like everybody else. But the thing is that when I go up there, I'm looking for people who are hurting maybe more than me, you know, like not to make fun of them, but I'm looking for people that need a laugh. And every time you come away with a joke or a touching story or a life that you have to hear. And yesterday, I can't get this guy out of my mind, Roderick. I was in the waiting room and I was making this husband and wife laugh because that's just what we do. We sometimes just can't turn it off, and we're all waiting, you know, and he was in a lot of pain, but she was Asian and she had her hair done blonde. So I was going into it with her, you know, like nobody would know from the back that you're Asian, you know, and I was just doing things with her like that. And he said he really needed to laugh. And there's this one guy sitting there and he said, are you, did they have you working here to make us laugh? And I said, no, I've asked them, but that don't seem to work. And he said, oh, and I go, how come aren't you laughing? And they called him. I never got to hear why he wasn't laughing at everything that was going on. And he got up and he could barely walk. His knees were blown out.
Oh, wow.
And then I saw that he had a patch that said paratrooper.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's the perspective, you know, like, of course, he's like 80 some years old. He probably jumped out of planes in Vietnam or whatever. And he can barely make it from the waiting room up to see the doctor, 20 feet.
Yeah. And that's a sad fact for a lot of paratroopers. People don't think about that, but a lot of paratroopers not walking as easily as they used to as young men. They literally gave their legs for the defense of this country. So
that's right. Thank you so much. Have a nice rest of your holiday weekend.
Same to you. Wishing you nothing but the best. Stay in touch. Seriously, stay in touch.
Likewise. I'll get a hold of you for July.
All righty.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.